Jeremy TV.
Welcome back to the channel. Jeremy here, and it's a beautiful fall day here in mid-October in southern Oklahoma. The weather finally feels like the calendar says it should feel, and I hope that the heat of the summer is finally behind us for good, although they are predicting some 80s this week. We can handle 80s. It's that 90s and low hundreds of bull crap that we're sick of and want to move on from. We've actually had a pretty good freeze already, which is pretty early in the year for us. What that means is hopefully I'm done mowing the lawn. But what it also means is now that moved me into fall and winter mode here on the place, which means lots of brush hogging at first. I also have to get my deer feeder ready because I'm about 2 months behind on doing that, and then start thinking about my winter project, which I've got some ideas and I'll share that with you. But first today, this project is going to be prepping the area around the deer feeder. I need to brush hog that, do a little bit of weed eating. I'm going to get a T-post and a game camera set up, and also make sure that the feeder is full of corn, that the battery is good and charged up, and do a test to make sure that the feeder is kicking out corn. But I'd like to go ahead and get started on that now. see, it's just about empty. There's only about an inch or so left in the bottom of that. And what happens is when that gets low, probably beyond this bottom ring here, there's not enough weight of the corn to push that down into the hopper and keep it coming out down at the bottom. So it just gets stuck, and then that's essentially empty. So we'll top it off. This bucket will hold that 50-pound bag, and then we'll get to feeding. And probably in a month or so I'll have to come out here and put another bag in it. Now before I haul that all the way up to the top, I'm going to take this cover off and I'm going to do a test to make sure that my battery's got enough juice to run. And this battery is not a rechargeable kind. As you can see, it's got a solar cell on it, and it has the capability to recharge the battery if it's a rechargeable battery. This one is not. So I'm going to find the test button, which is right here, and I'm going to hit the test button, and then I'm going to get out of the way, because if you don't, you get peppered in the head. Huh. All right. Well, the battery's dead, so let me hit it one more time just to make sure. All right, there's test, and I'm gonna step out of the way. Yeah. All right, so the battery's dead. I'm gonna go up to the house and get the old rechargeable battery and see if it will throw out enough juice to get started, and then it should recharge fine. This is a rechargeable 6-volt battery. This has got a solar cell on the front of it that recharges the battery, and this one's actually been in the feeder for a couple of years. I took it out thinking that maybe it was getting old and replaced it with a non-rechargeable kind. Well, that one's already dead, and I noticed this one still has some juice. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this one back up and test it, and if it works fine, then I'll go ahead and leave it in there. If not, I'll just go back to the store and get a new battery and replace that in the next day or two. Okay, so I've got the leads for both the feeder and for the charger hooked up to the battery. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit the test button again and hope it's got enough juice to get it started. And then, if it does, I'll just leave it and let it charge up. All right, so it had enough juice to kick out some corn, so I'm gonna just leave it on there, let it charge up today. The dog is eating the corn. I'm pretty sure he's not gonna like that, but anyway, he's eating it like it's good, so we'll see. I will just get this back on. Getting tight. All right, hoist it back up to the top. This should be good. I like to try to keep it where the solar charger is out away from the trees. Ideally, you want to get some sunlight on it. Honestly, this time of year it doesn't get a ton of light, but as long as it's still working, that's all I'm concerned about. So, all right, there we go. That's good. So now that it's filled, we tested it, hoisted back up. I'm gonna go get a T-post and put over here by this other tree and get the game camera mounted to that so I can kind of see what we've got in here eating. So I'm gonna go grab that T-post. So I'm just gonna set this T-post over here kind of out of the way where it's not terribly obvious. I mean, the animals will notice it, but they'll get used to it pretty quickly. And it sort of blends in with the vegetation over here. So this is about where I had it last time. So that's where I'm gonna put it this year. I won't drive it terribly far into the ground. It'll make it easier to get out of the ground when I go to move this T-post, or if I need it for something else. There. Didn't drive the flange all the way into the ground, so it'd be a little easier to remove if I need to take that out. I think this should be about the right height. I've got to go to the store and get some AA batteries, and then I'll put the SD card in it, and I'll do that tonight or tomorrow. But at least it's mounted, it's set up, it's ready to look, the feeder's full. So we've got this station set up for the winter, and then I can come weed eat around here if this stuff tends to grow up a little bit before a hard freeze. So we're ready to go here. One thing I do want to do before I sign off is show you a project I'm thinking about doing for this winter. So this is the northeast corner of my place. This is very heavily wooded. There is a lot of undergrowth in there, a lot of small gnarly trees, and I would really like to do this as my winter project. It's going to depend on a couple of things. Number one, it's going to depend on whether I flake out on it or not, because I'm not 100% sold on it. I know that wildlife lives in there. I know that deer bed down in there frequently. Turkeys use it for cover. And I'm a little torn on thinning it out where they can't necessarily use it like they did before. Number two, I also know how our personal lives have gone this last year, and I don't know that I will have the time this winter to tackle a project this big. Because for one person, it is a big project. I'm certain that I can probably get it finished if I get the time to put into it, because I've tackled pretty good sized projects before, but it's going to be a lot of work. The first thing I'm going to have to do is this dirt that I've piled up here. A lot of it came from this brush pile the first time I burned it down. It was the very first brush pile we started when we bought this place, and there was a lot of dirt mounded up in there from when some dozers had pushed trees into the pile. And I moved it with the front end loader right over to that spot. Since then, I have added more dirt from other projects, including the driveway ditch project. So I've brought a lot of dirt over here. There's probably at least 3 or 4 dump trucks full of dirt over in this area. So what I'm going to have to do is bust it up and probably just take the box blade and just spread it back towards the south, and you know, it may raise this area up just a little bit, but it's not going to be a huge deal. It's just going to be a lot of work. It'll take me a couple of days probably to get that moved out of there and get it out of my way. The next thing would be to start thinning out the small trees in there so I can get the tractor into that, because right now there's not many areas in there that I can drive a tractor. It's so thick with small trees and undergrowth, and the only way that undergrowth is going to come out of there is with a front end loader pulling on it and a brush hog chopping it up. So that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of that. It's going to take I'm sure weeks of work, and I don't want to do that in the summer when everything's green, especially crap like poison ivy, because poison ivy loves areas like that, and I know it's thick in there because I've seen it. So it will be a much prettier spot. It doesn't really offer us a tremendous amount of privacy, just because just on the other side of the trees there's a thick fence line that also needs to be taken care of at some point in the future. But the road is low enough down there you can't really see up to the house anyway. Now when you get up there that direction, you can see the house, and it's not like it's a secret that the house is here. But this crap along the east, all these woods over here, I've thought about thinning those out, and I'm a little hesitant because this little side road here is not heavily traveled, but it's a little closer to our house than this other fence line, and these trees in there give us some privacy. So I just don't know if I'll ever thin those out. Maybe at some point, because I know that the trees need to come out of the fence line anyway, and I'm going to have to put up a new fence on that side at some point. Same thing here. This corner is not great, so at some point I'll have to replace that fence. But this is the project that I'm thinking about tackling. It's going to take some work, and you know, if I had a dozer or maybe even a skid steer with some mulching attachments on the front, it might be a little bit easier, but or some cutting attachments. But honestly, I mean, I'm content with what I've got. And you know, in a perfect world I'd have all the toys that I needed for this stuff outdoors, but it's not a perfect world. So it'll get done, and I think it'll look great. And of course I will document the process. It will probably be several videos worth, but I want to, once I get in there and kind of get a better game plan, I'll get a good video and show you what it looks like right now, and then of course document the progress going forward. But I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed that video, and hope to see you again soon.